Every week there's another Jim Jones story, whether it's him versus 50, him and Cam Freaky Zeke, the podcast runs, or somebody popping off about Jim Jones, Dame Dash bringing up the fight. It's always something moving around Capo, but before we jump in, you already know the move. Smash the subs, hit the likes, run up that hype. Kid Cudi has finally spoken. He's officially addressed Jim Jones when it comes to the day and night situation. Jim has been running around for years, saying this. Now here's the wild part about what Jim is pushing. The big question is who? Who's the guy that really did day and night?
What's the dude that sing day and night?
Kid Cudi.
You know how he got his stardom?
No.
Dudes wanted to direct a video for me at the time. So they came to my studio, played the video they directed. The video they directed was Day and Night with Kid Cudi. And I'm like, I'll let y'all do the video if you'll tell this kid, give me his beat so I could do the remix, so I could remix his record. Somebody ripped it off the internet from Hot 97 and they started playing it at Hot 97, and that's how Kid Cudi ended up getting this deal, and they cut me out the deal. He was a nobody. He wasn't even thinking about a deal. He just was working on his craft and he was working in a rock and roll store. He always was, I used to see him all the time, always wear slim jeans. He worked undercuts. That's the craziest thing. That was the path that God had for him. Like, you about to go on right now as soon as Jones do this record. And after that, out of here.
Now listen, I know a lot of people don't even tap into Kid Cudi like that, but Kid Cudi is a star, a global star. He's been that way for a long time. I would argue his first album is a straight classic. That debut is undisputed, a classic to me. The real issue with Day and Night is this. We gotta break down the timeline and the events that led up to Jim even landing on that record back then and the era, and we gonna cover it as clean as we can. Now listen, Day and Night by Kid Cudi, right? It dropped February 5th, 2008. It was recorded in 2007. Now the thing about 2007, 2008, the timing matters and the industry climate too. Now, I'm one of those people who can clearly remember that internet era because I was deep online back then, especially on MySpace. Just think about that time on the internet. I was really outside digitally. I was pushing young Chris onto websites from all hip hop to SoHH, heavy in the forums, going back and forth with people about rap like it was a sport. I was in those forums daily, arguing music, debating bars, living that hip-hop life online. I was reaching out to mad different websites, watching everything shift from the streets straight to the internet in real time. You could literally feel the culture changing right in front of you. Now, with all that said, we gotta track exactly when Jim Jones did Day and Night, and let's be clear about it. Jim Jones dropped the Day and Night video on October 21st, 2008, and right now it's sitting at about 949,000 views. That timing matters way more than people want to admit. Back then in the early 2000s, everybody remembers 50 Cent's run, No Mercy, 50 Cent is the Future, God's Plan. Those mixtapes went crazy. Let's just call it what it is. People always rapped on other people's beats, but 50 was one of the first to turn those beats into full songs that felt official. Now yeah, you could argue a little. I remember Channel Live, if you remember Channel Live. They had that joint, sleep all day and hang out all night, over Biggie's Big Papa. Stuff like that is what made me go grab DJ Dude's tape immediately. But beyond all that, 50 Cent was really the one who started turning other people's songs into his own full records, performing them live and taking them on the road. Back then though, you weren't seeing videos for those joints like that. Jim Jones went and shot a video for Day and Night before the official Kid Cudi video even dropped in October 2009, and that alone raised eyebrows. This is how things used to work, and if you're younger, especially in your 20s, you might not remember this era. A song had to run for a minute, sometimes a long minute, before it ever got a video. That's just how the game moved back then. No shortcuts, no instant uploads everywhere. So yeah, it shocked a lot of people seeing Jim Jones do a Day and Night video. At that time, plenty of folks didn't even know who Kid Cudi was on a mainstream level yet. Artists weren't just shooting videos and throwing them on YouTube nonstop, but Jim was ahead of the curve in that sense and moving fast. Now, with all that said, Kid Cudi is clearly fed up. He's been done with this whole Jim Jones situation for a while now, and watching him finally address it feels unreal. Let's watch him and break down what he's saying, because this is the last thing I expected to see. And look around, anybody who's ever had tension with Capo seems to be stepping up now. Anyone who's had issues with him in the past is speaking out, and it feels like 2026 is the year everybody decides to go at him. Let me know if you think it's justified, because Kid Cudi is responding to Jim Jones directly about this day and night situation. Now listen, MySpace was really the TikTok of that era. If you were born in the 80s or early 90s, and by the 2000s you were a teenager or in your 20s, you already know what time it was on MySpace. Outside of the radio, outside of 106 and Park and Rap City, those were the main spots we got music from. But mixtape culture really started popping online through MySpace. That's where artists were getting discovered. The first time I ever heard Drake was on MySpace.
And I see something online that I have to address, right? So Jim Jones, first off, we love Jim Jones, right? Like, I grew up on Jimmy, like, he's the homie. I met him when I was coming up. He was cool, right? Jimmy, I'm gonna address you directly, my nigga. You talking about how you are responsible for my success is a lie. You need to stop lying to people. You get on your little podcast and you start gossiping and talking shit, and everybody on your podcast don't know the truth, so they all agreeing with you. But if you look under the comments under that post, you'll see people are letting you know what time it is. This is part one. I got more to say. Day and Night was already a hit record before you touched it, my nigga. I put it on my MySpace, it blew up, okay? I had an entire mixtape. I was on my way. Motown was courting me. Kanye wanted to sign me. All because of...
And the first person I heard Drake through was Hit Boy, because I was on his MySpace page when they were doing that Surf Club run. A lot of artists got their first real buzz right there on MySpace. I remember knowing Meek Mill back then too. Meek was a teenager uploading music on YouTube and MySpace non-stop. That was how you got heard in the mid-2000s, plain and simple. If you were young and grinding online, that's where your name started ringing. Back then, all the older dudes were clowning it. They were like, ain't nobody on that computer stuff. If you said you were online heavy, they looked at you sideways. Now look at it. Everybody walks around with a computer in their pocket. That's why there's real weight to what Kid Cudi is saying. And now, I'm gonna tell you what I think about why Jim Jones keeps saying this, right? Let's actually watch the clip that made Cudi finally speak up. Because Jim has said things before, but this latest clip is what really put Cudi on timing right now. The thing about it is, every time somebody says, if I'm lying, I'm flying, they usually on a plane that same night. But here's where it gets wild. For Jim Jones to say nobody would have ever known Kid Cudi if it wasn't for him hopping on Day and Night is crazy talk. Now listen, if he said nobody would have known Max B or nobody would have known Mel Matrix, that's a different convo.
That was one of the biggest.
Nigga, you remixed that shit. I didn't know that shit.
That's how y'all know Kid Cudi. You wouldn't have never known Kid Cudi if I didn't remix the record in New York City. I made that the biggest record in New York City. It wasn't Kid Cudi. Nobody knew who Kid Cudi was. Kid Cudi became about because he had video directors that I wanted them to do a video, and I asked them to show me a video they did before. And they showed me this kid on top of a roof with a record called Day and Night.
Right.
He worked in the store under the label. It was nobody. I was like, oh, yo, did this? I said, I like the record. Get the beat of the record, I want to do a remix. If you give me the beat of the record, I'll let y'all shoot my video. These kids was trying to shoot a video for free for me.
Oh.
Like, I got the beat. I told them they went crazy, you wanted to do it. I got the beat. I shot the video to the beat, and I never even put the shit out. Ripped it off of YouTube, and it became the biggest record in New York City. Artists ended up giving them a big deal off of Jim Jones' back. If I'm lying, I'm flying.
People already knew Stack Bundles before Bird Gang, back when he was with Riot Squad and Desert Storm, but to take full credit for Kid Cudi off a remix of a record that was already buzzing on the internet. That's wild behavior, straight up. Let's really talk about it. You gotta imagine the level of frustration Kid Cudi is dealing with right now. especially with everything he's already been through. Last year, he was a witness in the Diddy trial, and people went at him heavy for that, just for standing where he stood. Kid Cudi was never claiming to be street, never played that role. From the moment he came in, one of the things that pushed him forward was him openly rejecting that image. He was saying, "That's not me at all," and calling out how corny that lifestyle looked from the outside. He was one of the first artists doing that almost 17, 18 years ago, way before it was common. And now look at the position he's in. Imagine putting in all that work, building your name from the ground up. Kid Cudi dropped a straight-up classic debut album, no debate. Mr. Rager might be hit or miss for some, but that first album, classic status. Sky Might Fall, mad hit records, real impact, real influence, real legacy. Him being who he is and having that kind of pull, Jim keeps saying, if it wasn't for me jumping on the remix, but let's be real, that was never an official remix in the first place. That's where things start getting shaky. Now let's actually listen to Kid Cudi talk a little more about this situation, because context matters here. And here's the real thing, honestly. I truly think, in Jim's mind, him doing what he did felt huge. Yeah, it was getting spins on Hot 97 every day, no doubt.
Town was courting me. Kanye wanted to sign me. All because of Day and Night, because I put it on my MySpace and it blew up, my nigga. It blew up. I can promise you that Sylvia Rome did not listen to your remix and say she wanted to sign me. That is not why I have a record deal, bro. Nothing you're talking about is the truth. How do you think I had a music video? I was shooting the music video I was already on. You saw a hit record and jumped on it, my nigga. Like, you didn't make me, man. You didn't make me. So, like, you gotta stop telling these tales, my nigga. Like, you gotta stop.
He might have introduced Kid Cudi to certain street audiences who weren't checking for him at the time. But let's keep it honest. Those audiences weren't really looking for music like that anyway. Different lanes exist for a reason. If you've been a fan of artists who represented the streets heavy for most of their careers, and then you look at an artist who's alternative or coming from a totally different angle, you can't just say a street cosign is what made them who they are today. That math doesn't add up. You can't slap credit like that on somebody's whole career. Let's keep it 100. Take Kanye West, for example. Kanye came up producing beats for street artists like Jay-Z, Beanie Sigel, Memphis Bleak, all of that in the late 90s and early 2000s. That helped his visibility for sure. But could anybody really take credit for Kanye becoming Kanye? Nah, people already knew who he was, already felt his vision, already heard the sound. Collaborations open doors, but they don't build legends by themselves. That's the part that keeps getting ignored in this whole conversation. Right, and I think it's the same exact situation with Kid Cudi. Now, what gave Kanye a lot of credibility in the industry and in the streets was that mixtape run, the Get Well. Soon mixtape with DJ Enough mattered, no question. By 2007 and 2008 though, the whole game was shifting fast. People weren't relying only on the radio anymore. For someone like me, 2005 was when I got on LimeWire heavy. Once I was downloading music like that, I didn't really care what was spinning on the radio anymore. I'd still tap in for certain radio personalities, morning show stars like Buck Wild, and yeah, Ebro was around that time too. DJ Envy was on Hot 97 back then as well. You still had those moments, Monday night mixtapes, getting ready for Funkmaster Flex drops. People were still tuned into Flex, no doubt, but even then, a lot of street artists weren't really embracing that type of sound anymore. Things were changing right in front of us, so yeah, to an extent, you could say Jim helped introduce Kid Cudi to certain street audiences, but Kid Cudi never needed the streets to become who he became. That lane was never his goal in the first place. His music connected a different way. Emotionally, creatively, honestly, we've always looked at Kid Cudi a certain way because he came in during that shift after Kanye changed rap. Kanye cracked the door and Cudi walked through it in his own style. That's the part people keep missing when they try to rewrite history. Kid Cudi was really an extension of that whole shift, you know what I mean. He was a direct extension of that movement, point blank. Now let's actually talk about the record and what it really turned into. Day and Night, Kid Cudi's breakout single, peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 in May of 2009, becoming his highest charting song from that era. The record spent 21 weeks on the chart, which is no joke. It was later certified 12 times platinum, a massive milestone in his career. Peak position was number 3, officially hitting that spot around March 21st, 2009, and again, staying on the charts for 21 full weeks. That alone tells you how big this record really was. It's widely considered his most commercially successful work to date. On top of that, it was nominated for Best Rap Song and Best Rap Solo Performance at the 52nd Grammy Awards. Now here's the thing though, and let's keep this real. Awards aside, let's rewind the timeline again. So you're telling me Jim Jones dropped his version on October 21st, 2008, and the song didn't even peak until months later, around March? That timeline doesn't add up for full credit. You can't hand Jim the crown for that record blowing up. You just can't. The only credit I'll give Jim is this. For certain people in the streets who would have never listened to Kid Cudi, who weren't checking for that type of music, some of them might have first heard of Kid Cudi through Jim. That part is fair, but that's where the credit stops if we're keeping it 100. At that time, 2008, Jim was hot. You know what I mean. Ballin' had dropped a couple years earlier, and he was still buzzing heavy. Bird Gang was active, his name was ringing, and he was still very much in motion.
Like, you gotta stop. I wanna shout out everybody that's been in the comments letting this nigga know what the truth is, you know? But it's crazy how people just be trying to like take credit for my success. You know what I mean? Like, it's wild, you know? Like, and I like Jimmy, man. It kind of breaks my heart to hear him on here trying to take credit for something that he's not a part of. You know what I mean? You jumped on my shit. I didn't ask you to do that, you know? And granted, they played it on Hot 97 every day, and it was a thing on Hot 97 on the radio, but I was an international artist from jump. Like, I had the world, my nigga. Like, I don't understand. I really don't understand. But I'm gonna address this now, you know what I'm saying? Like, no more tales, my nigga. You ain't had nothing to do with this. So yeah, man, just wanted to address that, you know. I just know that, like, niggas is trying to erase history. You know what I mean? Niggas is trying to rewrite history, you know? And I'm alive and well, and I'm around to address it. This Jimmy talking about how he's responsible for my success, this comes up every couple years. He's always talking about it, and I've been ignoring it, and now finally I'm gonna say something. You know, because you're not about to be out here trying to, like, take credit for something that you had nothing to do with, you know? So, yeah. Just wanted to address that, y'all. Peace and love.
But honestly, this isn't even about opinions anymore. It's about the facts, straight up. He's connected to the moment, yes, but the timeline doesn't bend. Keep this in mind. 808 and Heartbreak dropped in November 2008. Kid Cudi was already on his way before that. If you remember that era even a little, you remember Cudi being around good music, moving with that camp, building momentum. He wasn't some random name popping up out of nowhere. He was already in those rooms, already working with that circle. He was featured on Kanye's 808 and Heartbreak, helped write records, and played a real role in that album's sound. All of that was happening around the same time Jim first shot the video for Day and Night. So let's be clear here, you can't rewrite this part. First of all, he was signed way before October, way before. The record itself dropped in February 2008. That's the timeline, no debate. That whole year matters. That whole timeline matters. The Celtics won the championship that year. 2008 is a super memorable year for a reason, but people gotta be honest about the facts. Let me know what you think, for real. Keeping it straight, Jim can't keep finding himself in these situations over and over. We got Jim, and we gotta get some real facts from you, my guy. Straight up, you can't keep running into these situations where people start breaking down timelines and it starts looking shaky. It really does, and that's just being honest. Kid Cudi is easily one of the most overlooked artists from that era when it comes to influence. And yeah, let's be fair, he had his moments, his quirks, all of that. But that doesn't erase what he did for the culture during that run. I remember that year clearly. I went to a Whale show, pretty sure it was 2008. Kid Cudi opened up for Whale that night. This was around the same time everybody was buzzing about him heavy. I don't remember if it was the GQ Man of the year or not, but the energy was real. What really stood out to me was seeing Leonardo DiCaprio in the building. I'm like, that's really Leonardo DiCaprio at a Whale show. He was locked in, paying attention to who was on stage, tuned into the moment. That tells you something right there. You can't take that away from Cudi. Capo can't claim that one. This is one of those cases where the work speaks for itself. I do this for the ones that rock with me, and for the ones that don't yet, eventually you will. Before you go, make sure you subscribe to Dripzine, share this video, drop a comment, and hit that like button. Help this video grow by clicking hype this video and running it up. Thank you for the support, and I'll catch you on the next one.